Rule number one, don't open the door.
I need a little more up top and a little less down below.
Amber alert. Oh, God, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. In orbit of Uranus.
It smells.
I don't even want to talk about it.
Oh, no, you love me. You know you love me.
Just don't let it touch the...
That's great, but give me a little more.
Why are you shooting at me?
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello and welcome out there in podcast and YouTube land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast and YouTube channel where two guys get together. We talk about horror movies or science fiction movies, key influences on the particular topic of the week, and then things that movie or series or whatever we're discussing influenced itself. We've been doing it for a while now. If you're new to us, though, we're glad you're here and found us. We'd love to know how you found us. Why don't you leave a comment down below and let us know how you found us. We would love to know that, and that helps us. Also, subscribe, like, do all those things that you're supposed to do. If you're returning to us, great. Glad to have you back. This week's going to be kind of fun and interesting and nostalgic in my opinion, but we'll see. My name is David. I'm here with my good friend, my co-host, my partner in crime, Tim. Tim, how have you been?
I am great. Lovely introduction you had there.
Thanks so much. It's almost like it sounds scripted, isn't it? But it's not.
No, not quite.
Right.
It's never the same.
It's never the same.
And I'm the one that's usually tripping over my words. How do we usually start these things? We usually talk about something that we've done in our genre week.
Yes.
And as far as a genre topic, and mine was a bit nostalgic and has a slight connection with today's show.
Okay.
I went back and watched the, it's not the original, but I went back and watched the 1960 adaptation of House of Usher.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's Vincent Price?
It is. Vincent Price and Mark Damon, who we have discussed numerous times on the podcast, especially Vincent Price. But it's written by Richard Matheson. The screenplay was. And it's one of those Roger Corman movies. It was really the first of like the 7 Poe adaptations he did. One of which was actually a Lovecraft that he used a Poe title on. I wanted to revisit it because I, recently watched the series that Mike Flanagan did on Netflix. And it's still my favorite of all the Poe adaptations Corman did. He gets high rankings for like Hitting the Pendulum and Mask of the Red Death. But this one, I think, gets the higher ones. If it doesn't, it's my highest.
Okay.
And I only saw this movie back in the day, late at night, and probably heavily edited and like bad prints.
Mm-hmm.
And the print I saw on Turner Classic Movies was just gorgeous. And I was like, I don't remember this movie looking so pretty. Mm-hmm. It was shot in color. It was done in CinemaScope, which was new for Corman.
Yeah.
Because someone jabbed him with instead of using this money for 2 movies, why don't you just make one good one?
One good one.
He was known for, producing movies on the cheap. This one was directed by him, as I said. It stars Vincent Price, Mark Damon, Myrna Fahey, and Harry Ellerby. And it is basically just a gorgeous set with Vincent Price and Mark Damon running around from talking. There's not a lot of action, but there are some scares, Madeline being, imprisoned alive in the basement or whatever. But it was good nostalgic fun, and I would recommend it, especially if you can find the print I saw with it is not heavily edited books.
Wow. Yeah, I want to see it again. That sounds interesting. I remember enjoying it. I remember liking it because it reminded me of like almost a Hammer feel to it. It was very saturated color, very gothic surroundings.
Big screen.
Vincent is really strong in it. doing his.
He is. And I always remembered him as having white hair in this movie. But now that I've seen a good print of it, it's actually blonde.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's interesting.
As probably it should be. Yes.
And I remember how every little sound would magnify in his head,
Yeah, it hurt him. Yeah.
Everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a term for that. One of my podcasts that I listen to, I've started using that when they get really upset, especially with its use in horror movies. There's a term for hypersensitivity to sound, like people eating, or it's like the anti-ASMR or whatever.
That's funny. Dennis always tells me I smack when I'm eating, and it drives him crazy.
You eat like that, do you?
I think that might be part of what you're talking about.
Dennis goes, that food sounds good. I finally succumbed to peer pressure or personal pressure. I looked at my list and went, I've got to get some of this stuff off of this and start watching some things. And so at the end of the year last year, a game show came out, or a game show version of Squid Games, and I'd never seen Squid Games, and it was huge and popular and all of that. So I thought, okay, I just need to see. Yeah, see, I'm trying to get better. So it's an 8-part Netflix sort of series, Korean. It's a Korean film. Mm-hmm. And I am on episode 6, so I'm almost through. And I thought I would wait till I finished it before I talked about it, but I haven't been watching anything else, so I needed to talk about it.
You're talking about the original, not the new one.
Well, the new one is a game. It's a game show. It's Survivor, done with Squid Games as a background, as the impetus for it, the creative for it. Okay. So
I haven't seen any of them.
Well, I don't want to give anything away then, so I'll just mention this was hugely popular on Netflix. I mean, it got a huge, and obviously so popular that somebody commissioned a game show based on it and based on the games that you have to play. But basically, if you've seen Battle Royale, you've seen it. If you've seen Hunger Games, you've seen it. It's
do they die?
Oh yeah.
So are they going to die on the new series?
Evidently, the new series uses paint guns and paintball guns. But if you're hit, you're eliminated. In Squid Games, if you fail the tests that are given, or you're hit or whatever, you die. You are eliminated.
Right.
So, terminated. But I'm struggling with the series not just because I do struggle with foreign films, especially if they're badly dubbed. And this one is badly dubbed, in my opinion. The voice acting is really bad in it. We tend to, when we see hysteria, when I see hysteria, it kind of pulls me back. Like even in Alien, as much as I love Lambert in Alien, when she starts really freaking out and screaming and crying and go, "We're all gonna die," I'm like, it pulls me out of it a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that in this because these people are panicked. So there's a lot of screaming and begging and crying and when it doesn't match their lips because it's dubbed, and when it sounds like it's a different voice than should come from this body kind of thing because the voice acting is weird, it just really throws me off.
So you're watching it dubbed and not subtitled?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't find a subtitled version.
Yeah, I think Netflix is big into that, dubbing stuff instead of subtitling.
Maybe, but
they use a lot of foreign properties now.
But I can say, just to sum up, in 6 episodes, it's really predictable. It's very the things that they think are twists or unique or whatever really aren't, and they kind of really push the boundaries of logic and physics and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if I'll be a fan by the end of it, but I'll let you know because I've heard that it does have some massive twists at the end, so much so that they've commissioned a second season. So it'll be back in Squid Game glory somehow.
So other than this spinoff, there's going to be a second season of the original.
Correct.
Okay.
And I can't really communicate with how, because I haven't finished this season and I don't know how that ends or if the protagonists are there. I do know that, it's very simply structured. Basically survive or die is the undercoating of all of it. And I'd be really curious for you to watch it and see what you think, because I know you also appreciate foreign films as well. So I think you might like it, and it would be, or at least have an opinion about it. I know you would.
Is it insane, like Battle Royale, and just stupid?
They try to be more
pretty stupid.
They try to be more clever than Battle Royale. Battle Royale was basically set up these people and have them fight each other. This is, you have to play these games, and losing the game means you lose your life. So what is the game going to be? You have no idea what it's going to be. But before it, you have to meet criteria. Like it'll say, for the next game, we are going to operate in teams of 10. Please please assemble in games in teams of 10. You have 10 minutes. And they have to go around saying, hey, you want to be on my team? You want to be? I don't even know if it's supposed to be strength, dexterity, intelligence, whatever we need for the game, but I need a team, sort of thing. And then when the teams are assembled, suddenly they announce the rules of the game and what the next game is going to be. And you would like it just from the effects, because there's a lot of gore in it too.
Oh, okay. In the original. Yeah. Interesting.
So I can't totally recommend it. I can't unrecommend or not recommend it because I haven't finished it. But everybody out there, let me know your things and what you guys think of Squid Games if you've seen it, or House of Usher if you've seen Tim's. Because some people would find Squid Game scary, I guess, to be in that situation.
You're trying to feed me a segue. I see what you're doing.
I'm segueing because Usher was first, and it's scary.
Usher was first, and I did watch House of Usher, the Roger Corman movie, because Richard Matheson was a screenplay writer. Mm-hmm. Which brings us to today's episode, which is kind of a special episode in many ways. First we're going to cover Steven Spielberg's Duel, which was his very first movie.
Yep.
And it was based on a short story by Richard Matheson, which I have read several times. And it was a television movie. And we've only done, from what I can tell, one other venture into television. And it was the season 1 episodes of The Haunting of Hill House.
We've never done a TV movie?
I don't think we've done another TV movie.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a first or a second, I guess.
We need to get into Trilogy of Terror before, long, or whatever.
Yeah. And if I'm wrong, listeners, please feel free to correct me.
Yeah.
But not only is this our second venture into television, this is our 7th Steven Spielberg film. We have done Minority Report, E.T., Close Encounters, Jaws, Ready Player One, and AI. Mm-hmm. This is also our 7th Richard Matheson.
Wow.
We have done The Devil Rides Out, The Raven, The Incredible Shrinking Man, The Last Man on Earth, The Omega Man, and Somewhere in Time. It is our 4th Richard Matheson film we have done this season.
Well, he is a favorite of ours.
He is a favorite.
That's okay.
Or at least of mine. So
yeah,
that's where I'm going with all of this.
Yeah, and all of those episodes are available on our website should you want to listen to them. Yeah,
they are. If you want and on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could start with a little synopsis. We have David Mann. It's a very, very small cast.
Yes.
David Mann played, and I love how his name is Mann.
Mm-hmm.
Only with 2 N's.
With 2 N's, yep.
Yeah, very, very intentional there. Is played by Dennis Weaver. He is a mild-mannered electronic salesman driving a 1970 red Plymouth Valiant, and he encounters an old oil tanker driven by an unseen driver.
Mm-hmm.
And this oil tanker begins to bully him with dangerous antics on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, that's the entire film. Is this guy being terrorized by another driver on the road.
Yep. That's it. In a nutshell. Simple, easy, in, out, done.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are your memories of this film or your first impression?
I did not see it in 1971 when it was released, but I did see it in a re-release on television. I think I watched it on a movie of the week kind of thing, like it was, because it was released as an ABC movie of the week. I've got it on my thing in November 13th, 1971. So I did not see its original air, but it was re-aired or rerun later on in the decade. I remember late 70s, probably watching it when I was in high school.
Okay, that may reevaluate me then, because I know I saw it on television and I thought it was the original.
Yeah.
But I would have been 6.
Yeah. So I don't know if you would have remembered that.
So yeah, maybe I saw a re-airing of it. Later.
And then I again rented it from Blockbuster, watched it again, have seen it a few times since when it's been on cable or whatever, and then watched it again, of course, for today, and still enjoy it, still like it, still am blown away with mostly the cinematography and the photography and Weaver's performance. I think it's a really strong, suspenseful little piece. I don't want to say little piece. It's not. I mean, it was a made for. Now they did release it theatrically. I did not see it in a theater.
No, I think they only did that overseas. I don't think they did it in the States.
However, the version that I saw just recently, was the theatrical cut. It had the additional scenes in it, and I think they're a mistake. I think they're obviously padding for.
What are the scenes? Because I don't know which one I saw.
The scenes that were added to make it a theatrical release are the scene with the train, where he is at the train tracks and the machine tries to push him in front of the train.
Oh wow, that's one of my scenes.
I do like that scene, that one, and I think it works. Although the truck literally comes from nowhere. She is sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden he's bumped and looks back at the truck behind him, pushing. I'm going, where did it come from? Whatever. So that one, the scene where he talks to his wife.
Okay, about the fight.
Yeah, and and the shots of her at home and all of that were added.
That is in the book. That is in the short story.
Yeah, they were added for the theatrical, and the school bus. The school bus was added for the theatrical. So,
the school bus seemed a little unnecessary to me.
Oh yeah, and way too long.
Because his car gets hooked trying to push the thing, and they're trying to separate the car from the bus. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Then I saw that version too, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the only one we can find now, or that's available out there, is the theatrical cut version. And you can tell the difference because the first one was only like 79 minutes for television.
Because of commercials.
Because it was a made-for-television movie.
Right.
Sort of thing.
I've got in my notes that it was expanded for a release in Europe.
Yep.
So I don't think it ever got released over here except on video, obviously.
Well, that's the version that we're watching now, sort of thing. Right. So there's lots of pre-production on this once we get to that. If you wanted to go through that. Yeah, 74 minutes. Correction, not 79. 74 minutes was the original runtime.
I've got a little bit of background if you've got some too, as far as
sure.
Production. As far as the story, Richard Matheson said he was inspired to write it because he encountered a tailgating truck driver on November 22nd, 1963, the day that JFK was assassinated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really easy thing to remember. I mean, if it happened on the day your president was assassinated.
Right.
It's wild. But it scared him.
Oh, yeah. And he tried to get it to be a movie. He tried to go to make a television movie out of it, and everybody turned him down.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he finally wrote it as a short story.
Okay.
And published it in Playboy.
Yeah, and Playboy was the first place it was released.
And Spielberg at this time had gotten his Universal gig, so he had essentially done a few episodes of television. He had done the Joan Crawford one, he had done a couple of others, and he'd done a Columbo. And
that Joan Crawford one was a night gallery.
Yes,
right?
Night Gallery. Yep.
Yeah,
correct. And it was his secretary, Nona Tyson, who had the Playboy issue and showed it to him. And said, and he goes, why, what? And she goes, it's for the articles. And he goes, oh, yeah, right. But anyway, he read the story, loved it. She also told him that they were thinking about turning it into a movie, and the producer was Epstein. And I think, no, Exton, whoever the producer was. I can't remember his name, and it's not in my trivia notes right now. But Spielberg actually called him up and went there and said, hey, I just read the short story. I heard you're going to make it a movie. I need to make it. I would be really good. I really want to do it. And there's a great YouTube interview with Spielberg, and it's almost an hour long talking about Duel. And that's where I got a lot of my information, and it's really strong. His remembering of it, the technicalities of trying to put it together, of working it out, of doing all the effects work that he wanted to do, because they came back to him and said, okay, you've got 10 days to shoot this. You've got this amount of money to do it. And so we think, as a studio, the easiest way to do that is let's do it all in blue screen or in rear projection. So, and he goes, oh, no, this movie has to be on location. We have to be on a road in the desert for this to work. We cannot do this in a studio like it looks like an Alfred Hitchcock film. And he even said in the interview, because, the steering wheel never matches what the background is doing. And it looks so fake. He said no one would ever buy the suspense of this movie if it was done that way. And I totally agree. His instincts are great. Again, this is pre-Jaws. This guy hasn't done Jaws yet. He hasn't done Sugarland Express. This is his first movie. Yeah. I'm like going.
I mean, how old was he?
Early 20s,
21.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking.
So anyway, they said, okay, well, you've got it. You've only got 10 days to shoot it, though. However, he took 13. Just so you know.
I've got 12. But
yeah,
okay.
He did go over budget. So
I've heard that this is like his landmark film for having shot one in 12 days. He uses this as a basis, that I can make a movie this quick. Yeah.
And that's what helped him do Sugarland, and that's what it did, eventually led to, of course, Jaws, and then we go. And there are people that have since then compared this to Jaws, of course.
Right. But it is very much like Jaws. That's key.
Yeah, and we'll get there with keys, I'm sure. Yeah. But even Spielberg says Jaws is the spiritual sequel to Duel, because of people fighting against an unknown force, a force that they can't, get over, kind of feel.
Right. And I have a feeling the truck worked a little bit better than the shark.
Yep. Lots of production stuff. So this was also the only film, Spielberg says it's the only film he ever did where he never storyboarded it.
It looks like a storyboard. Look at those pictures behind me, though.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But he didn't storyboard this. Instead, he took a huge map of Soledad Canyon, which is where they were going to shoot it, and he meticulously plotted out where the cameras were going to be for each shot, each day, and how to do it. So he knew, and even Weaver in an interview said that Spielberg knew exactly what he was shooting every single time, every single minute. And when he would offer new suggestions or whatever, Steven would accept it and immediately know how to shoot it then and what he wanted to do. So it was very collaborative, but also very, very, I have to do this right now. This is what I have to do to get it done. He was very, very planned and organized, I guess is a way of putting it. The studio wanted the truck to blow up at the end. And Spielberg fought him and insisted no. It doesn't need to blow up. It needs to die. It doesn't need to be this big dramatic thing. It needs to be much more subdued. But I've read interviews of people on Rotten Tomatoes and everywhere else where they said that was a problem with the movie. I mean, for the entire movie, they read flammable all over this truck, and then it doesn't blow up at the end. And they thought that was a big cheat, and there was no point to the movie. And
I
blah,
can
blah,
see
blah.
both sides.
Yeah, I can
There's
too.
something there's something in the story that's not in the movie. Is, you said it says flammable on
Yeah.
the back.
Mhm.
In the story, it says Keller on the door.
Oh,
And every time he looks at it, he sees the word killer.
yeah, that's cool. That is
Yeah.
cool. That would have been neat. That's a very Night Gallery, Twilight Zone-y sort
I
of
kept
aspect.
looking for it. I was like, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it. And I never did. So
Let me ask, in the short story, are the license plates on the front the way he did in the truck?
I don't think so.
Because it's like the third shot of the truck, and he does that shot. It's actually over your shoulder, where he's doing that front view of the truck, and he suddenly closes in and pans, and you see all of these license plates for different states.
Like
And
there's things he's killed.
Spielberg says, yeah, that's the notches on his belt. That's the other people that he's killed, or cars that he's killed, or whatever sort of thing. I thought that was kind of interesting.
For sure.
They did film on that same stretch of road in Soledad Canyon in Palmdale, and I have driven those roads before when I was in California. It was really interesting watching it again this time because I recognized a couple of places and went, "Oh yeah, see, I know where that intersection is. I've been there.
That snake lady.
I know that snake lady and the tarantula." But he was very clever too in how he shot. So they would set up cameras on one side of the road, shoot the scenes they needed to shoot, then move the cameras to the other side of the road on the same road and shoot the other direction. And it looked like two different locations. So it made, one had the walls and the mountains behind it. The other one had the open desert. So it made perfect sense for how to shoot it.
So he could get extra footage in less time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get it, shoot it fast, easy done. He also had 5 editors working because I think it's in my notes. I don't want to look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure that from kind of like a couple of other movies we talked about this season, from the end of principal photography to the release was like a month that he had to totally re-edit this, do all the audio that needed to be done, music, everything else, get it done, boom, in a month. So that's pretty daring with this amount of action. Yeah.
So it's ABC, was it? ABC Movie of the Week.
Movie of the week, yeah. To get the job, I have in my trivia, he took Eckstein, the producer, he went to his office and he showed him his episode of Columbo, which is the first episode of Columbo. Not the pilot, but the first episode. Okay. Spielberg directed it, and it had not even been released yet. And Spielberg took a rough cut, the final cut over, showed it to him, and he said, yeah, okay, yeah, you can do suspense. You're good. So here's the green light. Make the movie. And that's what sold it. I've found it 3.5 weeks after principal photography until the air date. Meant 5 editors had to be editing at the same time.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought he would have wanted to edit it.
Well, he was going from editing suite to editing suite because each one of them was taking a section of the movie and doing that section kind of thing. Also, it has a Spielbergism in it, which is awesome. Not that he created it, but it's almost like a key to, we'll get to it. But when he gets the very first real attack, when he's run off the road and hits the fence in front of the diner and then ends up going into the diner, from the time he walks up to the front of the diner all the way through to the time he sits down is one single shot. So walking in the diner, all the people talking to him, where's the bathroom? I just need to go. He goes around down the hallway, moves around, goes into the bathroom, wipes his face. You hear all of his voice monologue, his internal monologue saying, he tried to kill me. He really tried to kill me. I can't believe, blah, blah, blah. He wipes himself up, gets over, goes out, comes back, goes to the window, pans, and there's the truck. Cuts back to him and he sits down. That's one shot. And Spielberg in that interview said they didn't have Steadicam then. So he's shooting it on a little handheld Aeroflex that is so loud that every sound in that entire sequence had to be dubbed. So all the diner sounds, all the dialogue, movement, doors, water, all that had to be added because he couldn't.
It again.
Yeah. You could just go to that scene and watch that scene. It's really good. I watched it 3 times.
I mean, that's it's clear he was like paying homage to Alfred Hitchcock or somebody that does.
Oh yeah, it was Touch of Evil. That's what he was trying. That would have
been Orson Welles, but yeah,
Orson Welles was,
and then Hitchcock did the same and wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very interesting. Long shots.
Let's see.
As far as other differences, you brought up the internal monologue we had when he was washing his hands. There's a lot more of that in the story.
Of course.
Obviously. Because I was like, how did he write this? Because there's a lot of action. And it reads like any other Richard Matheson story. Very clean. Yeah, yep. It's just a very clean, effective short story that's suspenseful.
Well, and it watches really well, too. I like the fact that he sets up Weaver kind of mumbling to himself at the beginning and then kind of yelling at him. So that kind of works or yelling at the truck. That kind of works when the monologue starts. We're not thrown away by it. Of course, he would be thinking that. Yeah, I would be thinking that, too. This guy just tried to kill me, right. Kind of thing. Yeah. There's only one truck in the movie. They only had one truck. They only used one truck. That's why the final scene was so important, covered with 7 cameras, because they could only do it once. But the truck had to audition. Spielberg actually said, I don't care what his car is as long as it's red. And they said, why does it have to be red? And he said, because I want it to show up in the desert among all the browns and the grays. But he said, so I don't care what the truck is, but he picked the truck. So the stunt guys and everybody else had a lineup of like 5 or 7 trucks in the back lot, and Spielberg went out to pick the truck. Do you know why he picked that one?
I do. And
yeah.
It's because the truck looks like it has a face.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 2 eyes and a mouth.
Yeah, snout and a mouth and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He wanted it to feel predatory, which he said it did, and everything. He also, in post, added a bunch of rattling to the truck. So almost every time you see the truck, you're hearing something rattle and screech and that kind of, because he wanted it to bother you.
Right.
The truck I thought it was interesting. He did it all in the day. There is no night in this movie, which I thought was interesting, because you could such scary stuff at nighttime in the desert, of course. So I thought that was interesting. A couple of the best stunt guys in the business were on the movie, so that was a good one too.
Yeah. What I didn't remember, because it's been a long time since I had seen this, was that you do actually have the scene where you see, he mistakes. No, he sees the boots of the guy that drives the truck. Because when he's in the diner later, he's trying to see what shoes match. And then there's a scene where you see the driver's arm, or he waves around.
Gestures.
I don't remember any of that.
I don't either.
I always remembered it just being the truck and nobody in it.
I always remember the thing about Duel was you never knew if the truck had a person in it or not. But yeah, you do.
But it does clearly have a person in it. That you just never see his face.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a killer truck. It's a killer driving a killer truck.
Correct. Yeah.
And as you said, a lot of people refer to it as a serial killer on the road, and that makes sense with those license plates, because serial killers tend to keep trophies of their victims.
Yeah, very true.
So that would make sense as well. It's a really well thought out movie for such a small project, television. When you got Spielberg and Matheson, you can't really go wrong. And it was before Spielberg was getting all cutesy with kids and stuff, although he did have the stupid bus scene that you mentioned that was added for the European release.
Yep.
And those kids were already getting on my nerves. So,
last couple of production notes I've got, Dennis Weaver insisted on doing his own stunts, including the phone booth. That's literally him doing that as the truck. Yeah. Yep. That whole scene, the just, the truck running around and crashing through everything, all that's Dennis Weaver.
Well, that was going to be another one of my scenes, because it's not the phone booth. It's exciting enough seeing him get out of that phone booth at the last second before that truck plows into it. But what made me jump more was the damn snake and the spider. He lands like really close to that giant, I guess it's a rattlesnake. I don't know what it was.
It's a rattlesnake. It's a rattler. Yep.
And then he gets up and there's a spider on his leg. I'm like, how did that happen?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Scenes? What are some other scenes?
Well, that was the one. And then again, the one that they added with it pushing him toward the moving train. I still like that scene. It's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that one. I think that's a good one. I like that one. I do like that last shot of the truck dying, essentially, of it falling over. And it's all one camera. Spielberg said he shot it with 7, but he ended up only using one camera because that cameraman was so good and got everything and all in slow motion, and so much that the whole rig goes into a cloud at one point, and then suddenly the back end rises up and tilts over and falls. And he said, and that's all one shot, one camera shot. So he really liked that. I do like that. I like some of the intensity. It's hard to describe. It's after the diner. But probably my favorite shot is that section where he thinks he's lost it because he hid. He goes down the side road and stops and says, I'm going to wait a half an hour and everything. And the truck goes past him, and then he gets back on and goes and boom. And it's that great shot of him coming over the rise, and all of a sudden he hits the brakes and turns his car sideways, and the camera pulls back, and you're underneath the truck waiting at the end there for him at the end of the rise. I love that scene and that shot.
That's a good shot.
Yeah.
I was going to also mention the scene in the diner and the confrontation he has with the guy when he knocks his sandwich out of his hands. Yeah. That's not in the book. In the book, he is questioning who in the diner is the killer. But he ends up just running out and taking off to try to get away. He doesn't really encounter anybody hostilely as he does. And that, I like the change Spielberg made with that, because it added even more unease and tension, because that guy's probably not the right guy.
Right. But you also sympathize with Mann because, I would say just leave it alone. Okay, just stop it. All right, just stop it. And then when he does it, you get mad and frustrated and realize he's not the guy. Oops. Yeah. Right. I agree. I think that was a good ad as well.
And watching people leave to see if they get in the truck. And of course, they get in a car parked behind the truck. You think they're getting in the truck. There's all kinds of little mechanisms going on in that scene.
He follows the one guy all the way out to the truck, and suddenly he pulls away from behind the truck in a different, smaller pickup truck. And you go, dang.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are all good suspense moments.
Yeah. Good scenes. I can move on to casting if you want. Of course, it's not going to be very hard.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. This movie stars Dennis Weaver. A lot of you younger folks out there might not know who he is. I know him most from playing Sam McCloud on the Mystery of the Week, the thing that actually Columbo was part of. And you said Spielberg had filmed a Columbo episode. Well, McCloud used to air with those. Macmillan and Wife used to air with those. And I just grew up as a kid watching those with my parents. Yep. But he goes back further. Apparently, he's known more for doing Gunsmoke.
Oh, yeah, Chester.
That's where he originated a reoccurring role. And then I also have that he goes as far back as who you mentioned a while ago, Orson Welles. He was in Touch of Evil.
Which is why Spielberg wanted him. When they came to casting, he looked through all the list, and when it had Dennis Weaver, he said he remembered it from Touch of Evil and how hysterical he got, but that controlled hysteria. And he said that's what David Mann needs. He needs this kind of tension and fear, but able to still work and be believable. And I really thought that was good.
I actually have that in my notes, maybe.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
There were others considered, though. Do you know who they are?
No.
Dustin Hoffman was considered for David.
A little straw dogsy. Yeah, probably not. No.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and that was around the same time as Straw Dog.
Yep.
Gregory Peck was considered.
Ooh.
I could see him doing it.
I could. But I would know he would win. I mean, Gregory's a pretty, imposing figure. He's a hero type, whereas Weaver's not. Weaver is that kind of everyman man kind of thing.
Well, he doesn't win in The Omen. And that's where we saw him last week.
That's correct. He does not.
And we may see him again this season.
We might.
That's a teaser, folks. Anyway, he was considered briefly, but when they decided to make it a TV movie, he backed out.
Mm-hmm.
Another television actor that I like a lot, who was a little too heroic for the role, turned it down, and that's David Jansen.
Oh,
remember him?
Okay, yeah.
Another great television actor, but he was not meek enough, I would say, is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Dennis Weaver.
Mm-hmm.
And although Spielberg wanted Weaver from the beginning, he wasn't signed until the evening before shooting was supposed to start.
Wow.
And that's because the Universal temporarily shut down the production of McCloud to allow him to do it.
10 days. That's all we need. 10 days.
Yeah, give me 12 days. Well, 10. Well, he said 10. It took 12.
Yeah.
The only other note I have on Weaver is something I looked up because I did not know this about him. He served as president of the Screen Actors Guild from 73 to 75. And he was a big environmental activist.
Really?
He was a proponent of alternative energy and recycling long before it was, a big thing like it is now. Mm-hmm. And his home in Colorado is called Earthship, and it is constructed from recycled tires and aluminum cans. And
I did not know that.
Ugly. No, it's not ugly, but it's very strange looking. I highly encourage you folks to go out there, Google Dennis Weaver's Earthship house, and you can see pictures of it on the inside and outside.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as other cast members, there is a slew of character actor faces playing other people, but no one really that bears mentioning. I mean, the other star of this movie is that truck, basically.
Yeah. The only thing I have is that he does have, it's kind of like an homage or whatever, but this is, I guess it's more key casting. But Spielberg did it later. But the couple in the car, right after that scene I was talking about where he turns his car sideways and the truck is there waiting for him and he tries to get away, the old couple that shows up, Spielberg also cast them in Close Encounters. They're the old couple in the masks in the helicopter.
Oh, okay.
That David tries to rescue kind of thing in that. And then the snake lady, who owns all the snakes, the same lady and the same snakes and everything else are in 1941. He used her in 1941 as like a little homage. So I don't know if that's a key or a casting or whatever, and we recognize her. She is a character face from the 70s.
Yeah, her name is Lucille Benson.
Yeah. She was in a bunch of things.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie 1941. I think I saw it once, and I don't even really.
You repressed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was Spielberg's take on farcical comedy. He was trying to do a big, huge,
catch-22.
Doesn't work. It didn't work. I mean, I haven't seen it in decades either, but I don't remember liking it very much at all. So there's that.
As far as awards, this movie won a Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Sound Editing.
Yep, I told you the sound works.
To me. Yeah.
Although I have in my notes that music-wise, the music in this is very, I think it's kind of weak. I do like the kind of, that 70s scary music they use. They use it.
Yeah, in weird effects.
They did it in like Trilogy of Terror too, and a couple of those other. I mean, they did it in some of that, but the first music sting is not until 24 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
No. And I don't find it that compelling, really, musically.
No.
Really. I mean, this was before John Williams.
They could have made it more compelling with some music.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll get to that when I get to Keys.
Okay.
But, it was nominated for cinematography, but it didn't. It lost that.
Should have won that, yes.
It was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best TV Movie. The Ivoriaz Fantastic Film Festival gave it the grand prize of the year. So when it was over in Europe, they respected it a little bit more because it was in theaters and it won an award over there. But since it was a television movie here, it's not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list. And I that's why I attribute it is the fact that it was made for television, because I would think it would be on.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah,
definitely.
So that's what I have for awards.
Interesting.
We can move on to Keys unless you have more trivia.
Nope. I've got all that except the roar at the end. Spielberg added the roar of the truck dying because he wanted to hear that. And I thought that was cool. Yeah.
I do have some trivia, actually.
Okay.
Well, the pest control car company's name is Leaps, and that's Spielberg spelled backwards. That's just stupid. But in the wake of the huge success of Jaws and the resultant bankability of Spielberg as a named director, Universal Pictures re-edited this film and mounted a promotional campaign, complete with trailers, TV spots, print ads, and a full-size movie poster, hoping it would be a hit on the big screen in the United States. Since it was readily available on TV free of charge of several years, by that point, audiences failed to materialize, and it was quickly withdrawn. So they did try to release it in the States, and it bombed. Okay. So they just yanked it really quick.
Yep.
It's because everyone had already seen it.
Yeah.
So that's all the trivia I had. I had forgotten it was temporarily released here.
Keys. My first one is, again, from the interview. It's The Birds. Spielberg calls this movie The Birds on Wheels.
Really? I would call it Jaws on Wheels.
I would too, just because of the menace, but that was his quote from the interview. And I tried to think of it. Would it be because we know the menace is coming earlier than the character does? Maybe, or something. I don't know.
Or that is never explained.
Agreed. Never explained. I mean, Jaws is pretty straightforward. It's a shark, and we know all that.
Right. And The Birds is never explained.
Right.
And that's why I like it so much. The
ambiguity
of it all. But, my first, well, I've already given a couple, but my first big key is Mad Max.
Of course.
This movie is Mad Max. What? 8 years before?
8 years before? Yeah.
Filmed it.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Cameras on the road.
And with the pan shots where you're like going all the way down the truck and you're coming down, and seeing as it's driving and moving, and you're going beside it all the way up to the radiator and the rattling plates and all that. That's so Mad Max. Yeah.
Right.
Very.
And what looks like acceleration that's not real acceleration. It's like camera moving.
Yeah, the moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say earlier, is that it could have been even more suspenseful if they used music, because Miller used great music to make it more suspenseful with those like road shots and stuff.
And the tie-in to that, which is kind of a key and a production note, is that he borrowed the camera rig from Bullitt to allow him to do all of the wraparounds of the cars and go, in from the windshield all the way over to the side and then to the end of the car, all with one camera rig. So yeah, that's very Mad Max, very Mad Max.
And it's funny you mentioned Dennis Weaver. There were, I don't think he did all the stunts, because there are a few times when someone else is driving, you can tell.
Correct. And they had stunt drivers. Yes.
Right. He did the physical stunts, like outside of the car.
There's also a couple of gaffes. There's a couple of shots where you look, and if you look in the window, the window behind Weaver, the driver's window, you can see the cameraman sitting in the back seat, because he would shoot with two cameras at the same time, kind of thing.
It blows my mind how someone like Spielberg can film this, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I mean, obviously the car's not going as fast as you think it is, but he must be on like a crane in front of it, you know, because he's shooting directly into the windshield. I'm like,
Yep.
he's not standing on the hood while the car's moving, quite
Correct.
obviously.
Correct. No, there's a camera rig right in front of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you see the rear view mirror in this movie. They don't remove it like they did in later 70s and 80s movies.
Right.
You know, kind of thing. Yeah, I have all of those. There's also another gaffe where it's in the phone booth. In the phone booth shot right before you can see the truck coming in the background toward the camera. You can see Spielberg in the corner of the glass reflected, because he's actually on the camera shooting that shot.
Wow.
Yep.
On the glass of the phone booth?
Oh, the glass in the phone booth. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so that's another gaffe I have. Yep.
Other ones? Other keys?
Terminator. Being chased by a big truck and being, intimidated by it, and it's never going to stop and going to come forever.
Killer.
Yeah. You don't understand. He doesn't stop. He's never going to stop. Jaws. We've said Jaws, of course. That's on mine. I've got one that's probably on your list too. The Hitcher. This reminded me of The Hitcher, that kind of a lonesome guy driving across, and he's suddenly harassed and terrorized. The Hitcher is much more visceral.
Much more man on man and less truck on man.
Yeah. Less monster movie, more serial killer movie.
Right. I've got one I lifted from IMDb where Spielberg says he approached this movie in the manner of a Toho monster movie.
Oh, really?
i.e. Godzilla.
Gojira!
Yeah, he said he wanted to replace Godzilla with an 18-wheel truck.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, when you see it coming over the horizon, it's just not quite as big.
I did not know that.
Yeah. You mentioned something already that I had in my notes, that the reason Spielberg wanted Dennis Weaver for the role was because of his performance in Touch of Evil, the film noir, a la Orson Welles. Weaver played apparently a jittery, paranoid motel night manager. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Who frequently said another think coming instead of thing. He said another think coming. And that Spielberg virtually recreated this character for Weaver in the scene where he nervously confronts the truck driver and says, "You've got another think coming."
There you go. Directly from it.
The same line.
That's a great key.
Yeah.
I've got one I think I mentioned when we first started talking about the list this year when we mentioned this movie, Killdozer. I've only seen it maybe once, I think. I looked it up. It was a 1974 made-for-TV movie. And basically it's on an island, I think, or remotely somewhere, and there's a construction dozer, a bulldozer, that, from what I can remember, ends up hitting a meteorite, and an alien entity goes into the killdozer, and it just starts killing everybody and chasing people, and we're scooping them up and running around, and it was terrible. It was a bad movie, but obviously influenced by
what
Duel.
Was it on a different network? Were they just trying to rip him off?
I think so. I don't know what network it was on, but it was 1974. Clint Walker was
I love
in
Clint
it.
Walker.
Yeah.
Cheyenne.
Yeah, even in actually, okay, wow, this goes back to you. The thing I just found on Wikipedia, Killdozer is a 1974 made-for-TV science fiction horror movie adapted from the 1944 novella of the same title by Theodore Sturgeon. What?
Wow.
I didn't know that. So there you go. Killdozer was one of my keys. All these keys everywhere. Influences, baby.
Well,
Influences.
I have one other that I just thought of, and I had to double check because it's been a long time since I've seen it. I was like, what other movies have I seen that are suspenseful out in the desert? And there's a movie that Kurt Russell did called Breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Movie. It's the one
I remember
where his wife is missing, and it ends up being a truck driver that has got her, and it's like a chase down.
Yeah.
I can't remember the details. I just remember I liked it a lot.
What about the Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino Kurt Russell truck killer, serial killer, drives a car?
Oh, the other half of Grindhouse.
Grindhouse, yeah.
Yeah, that is a chase movie, but it's a car.
Oh, it's a car, but it's still a chase on the road, murderer, serial killer.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good key. It makes me want to see that movie.
I do too. I've actually, I'll admit to all of you out there, I've never seen it. I never saw it.
Oh my God. Have you not seen Planet Terror?
Nope. I've not seen it.
Okay, that's going on the list for next week.
No, I've never seen it.
Death Proof. There's two films, Planet Terror and Death Proof, and they're connected by some fake trailers into a double feature. That's how it was originally released. I think now you can watch them separately.
But wait, wasn't one of the trailers the new Eli Roth Thanksgiving thing? Okay.
Yeah, it just came out last Thanksgiving.
The last key I have, you might like, is there's an X-Files episode where they have to keep driving, and it's in one direction. They have to keep driving like east or something because they die if they don't, or age or something happens.
I don't remember that, but it sounds like Speed.
It's not
probably another key.
Another key, yeah. But it's kind of like, and it's not them. It's like they've got somebody, like a boy, a young boy or a young girl or something like that. And if they stay in the time zone, they'll die or they'll age. Or so. I cannot remember it, but it was an X-Files episode. Anyway, and they had to keep driving west.
Latter season on it. Doesn't sound that good.
They had to keep driving west as fast as they could, or to stay ahead of it, kind of thing.
Stay ahead of the sunset.
Yeah, and that's that kind of, we've got to, survive on the road. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, inspiration that came from this, of an unknown killer chasing you in a car. That can happen. There's even that, there's that Elijah Deskew movie, Last Exit or No Exit, or, Final Exit. Wrong Turn. There's a lot of those trapped in a car kind of thing. I mean, even... it's
Wrong Turn goes more cannibalistic, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of them
find people out in the woods that are inbreds or whatever.
Right, a lot of them only use the car chase for a brief part of the story, whereas this is the two elements I like about Duel a lot are. The chase goes on till the end of the movie when he's sitting there in the sunset. And secondarily, it's mysterious. We never know why. It's that Halloween. He was the boogeyman, wasn't he? As a matter of fact, he was.
That's actually a good key, because it does have the same flavor of Halloween.
Yeah.
As soon as he's dead, it's over.
And it's just Mann sitting there in that silhouette shot with the sun setting. And you don't get a final little monologue from him or anything else. It's just this feeling of I don't know why that happened.
Yeah, the film is just basically an action piece, and it ends when the action's over.
Yeah,
It does have a slight prologue, basically just showing him get up and leaving for work or whatever and driving out of the city. And that's the prologue. And
the version I saw never showed him. It was just driving. The whole credit sequence.
Right. It is just driving. I think.
The whole credit sequence is just a driving montage of transitioning from the downtown inner city to the desert.
Country. Yeah.
And I found that very interesting too, because you're hearing the radio and it's kind of setting up the time frame and all of that, but there's no dialogue, there's no monologue, there's no character interaction. It's very interesting choices for that. Yeah.
It's an in out. You're done. Bye.
Yeah. Yep. Easily.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else. I think that maybe we could wrap with that.
That's perfect. Well, that's what we think about Steven Spielberg's first ever feature film, made for television feature film, debut called Duel. And based on Richard Matheson, we would love to know what you guys think about it. Well, how did it influence you? When did the first time you saw it? What do you think of it? Have you read the short story? Do you have any other?
Haven't seen it. Are you going to go see it now? Because I highly recommend it.
Yeah, but it'll be a fun ride, even though the truck dies at the end. Just telling spoiler.
Right.
But there you go. It's a fun ride. But that's what we've got. And we would love for you guys to get involved with us more. Please leave a comment down below, or rank us, rate us, go to Apple TV, give us, all the stars you can, all of that stuff. You go to the website, like we said earlier, and you can find all of our past episodes. All 6 seasons are out there with good stuff, bad stuff, mixed up stuff, crazy stuff, all of that. We also have a Patreon if you would like to care to support the podcast, and we would dearly love your support. You can join there, and there's special materials there and special projects and podcasts that we put together for that. Tim, it's been a ride. Where are we going next? Is it going?
Where are we going next? We're going to outer space.
Yay!
Probably the 1950s.
Ooh, 1950s outer space could be classic then.
Yeah.
Excellent. And we'll see you guys then.
All right, I'll be seeing you.
All right.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.